my happy welcome, Dr. Patricia Redhawk, who I call her the Queen of the BRRRR.
Oh, that's pretty impressive. Thank you. Thank you very much. Before I get rolling, is the volume okay? It's the first time I've actually ever given a presentation with a microphone. I'm like half ready to burst into song or something. But can you hear me in the back? Landlords in the back. We're good? Excellent. All right. As Smarty said, my name is Patricia Redhawk. I am a physician by training. Go Temple Owls. I went to Temple University School of Medicine. In fact, that's how I got out here. I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, where I was a carpenter doing residential remodeling. I worked for a small group of investors who were flipping houses before it was called flipping. I learned how to flip houses from the inside out. I did this in the 90s in the Almaden Valley of San Jose, for those of you who know a little bit about the Bay Area. So when Marty says that we started about the same time, we did. We started about the same time in this area, but in fact I had been involved investing for quite a while, flipping, as I say, out in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then there was kind of this boondoggle thing where I decided I didn't want to be 40 years old and swinging a hammer, so I went to medical school to be a physician, which I did. My mama is so proud. Practiced family medicine at both CHOP and Chestnut Hill Hospital. But sadly, as I got into it, I realized that it wasn't actually going to be what I needed it to be, what I wanted it to be. I was looking for something different, and to make a very long story short, I decided to go back into investing because I loved it. I'm so thrilled with the work that I do. I love investing. I like investors. I like our industry. I like what we do. I like the incredible positive change that we bring to communities, to families, to municipalities. I love the money we're allowed to make for ourselves and our families. So I can't say enough good things about this industry. Here's the fascinating thing about all of us. We are all self-taught, right? Nobody goes and gets a degree in this. Like, you can get a degree in real estate, but the reality is, for those of you who are flipping houses and doing a profit, you can't learn that in the classroom, can you? You cannot learn that in the classroom. So I love real estate investors, and you all know, we love to talk about what we do, and especially if we've had some level of success with it. I'm going to jump into it. I've got some things to talk about from the newbies in the beginning, and then we're going to sort of talk about how I, in particular, do BRRRR. If you've got a question, you're going to have to wave your hand at me and shout it out. I'm happy to answer questions, and even after the presentation, I'll go downstairs. We'll shoot the breeze for a while if you'd like as well. My contact information is here, and it's also going to be on the last slide. And because Smarty runs a top-notch group, this entire presentation is being recorded, and you'll be able to have access to it afterwards. And again, my contact info is up here. Feel free to reach out to me. I love talking to other folks. So let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is BRRRR. For those of you who don't know or are brand new, BRRRR stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Very straightforward. A term that was actually coined by Brandon Turner of Bigger Pockets, who we all know, love, hate, whatever. But it really does capture this particular strategy extremely well. I go to other people's BRRRR topics as well. I want to see what my colleagues are doing. I don't consider them competitors. I have an abundant mindset. There's more than enough work for everybody. But they're doing other things that I want to know what they're doing as well. So I go and listen to other people's BRRRR, even though I consider myself a successful BRRRR investor. But let's get into it. So, first thing, for the newbies who are just considering, haven't done a deal yet, here's the information I wish someone told me. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Get ready. Prepare to launch. Give yourself a 6-month on-ramp before you actually start investing. You have an enormous amount of work to do. Let's get into it. Prepare to launch. You're going to tie up loose ends. You're going to clean house. You're going to get your shit together. We're going to keep it real tonight, okay? What do I mean by that? You should have a 3 to 6 month plan before you even start to look at houses. I want you to pay off personal debt, pay down credit cards, start banking money. I don't even care if you have to drive Uber for part-time to make 20 bucks an hour. You need more money. You want to increase your credit score. Maybe get a temporary second job. Get rid of liabilities. You need nothing to weigh you down. You are preparing yourself for a very important launch. Other things to be doing. Again, this is a 6-month window. Simultaneously, You are going to be reading, listening to podcasts, coming to meetups, talking to other investors. You should be reading about 15 to 20 books. Listen to podcasts, take notes. Here's what I mean by that. I have never met anybody who can equal me in the number of podcasts I listen to every week. I listen to about 20 hours worth of podcasts a week. That's easy, because I do it in my truck, right? So I'm driving around, I'm doing what I'm doing, hour and a half someplace, hour and a half back. That's 3 hours worth of podcasts every single week. It's an enormous amount of information. So for me to start to make sense of it, what I did was I started to take notes by the interviewee. So the topic, when I wanted to know about lead generation, I listened to a ton of stuff just on lead generation. I took notes. I have a file folder, and I keep that so when I'm looking for new ideas for lead generation. Same thing about options for financing, how to discuss and working with private money lenders, using hard money lenders, CRM as a client resource management. It's like basically a database of contacts. Issues about taxation in business, how to set up your business, the LLC, the S Corp, the C Corp, whatever. Setting up your self-directed 401ks, setting up your self-directed IRA, etc. Also, develop your rehab scope of work. Don't wait to develop that scope of work when you have a property. You have an idea of what it is that you want to do, because you'll have a better idea of, is this house fit my skill set? So I don't have any problem doing full gut rehabs. I'll do burn houses. I have no problems. Like, once you have been in the trenches long enough, you've done a lot of crappy jobs, this doesn't scare you off. But if you know for a fact, this is sort of the edge of my wheelhouse, be clear about that. So again, develop your own rehab scope of work so you know what you're capable of doing. And also pick up little rehab tricks. You pick them up here, you pick them up on podcasts or reading in books, talking to other investors. Get out there and schmooze. I'm hearing an echo in here. Yeah, I don't know. Are you hearing me? Is this better? Less echo? I don't know. This is my audio guy. Okay. Delay in the Bluetooth. Let's move on. Again, still in the preparing to launch. This is still in that 6-month window. Talk with your CPA, your attorney, your insurance agent, your title agent. You're starting to put together your team. You want to build your contractor team now. I'm on some Facebook forums. People talk about, hey, just closed on our first flip property, BRRRR property, whatever. Who are your good contractors? Are you shitting me? You should have already had that taken care of. You should already have those conversations. You should have already checked out their work. Look at stuff that they've done 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Look at their longevity. If they have an active job site, you want to see that active job site. You want to see how they take care of the house that they're currently working on. This is a part of building out your team in advance of you even starting the investment process. Again, this is still under the prepare to launch. We're not even to the B yet of BRRRR. Again, develop your scope of work template now. It's specific to your investment criteria. If you're working in D class areas, I work in C class areas that focus on workforce housing, primarily for families. That's my sweet spot, works for me. Other people like B stuff, other people like A stuff, or more commercial, whatever. Figure that out for yourself. Write it down. Be very specific. You need to be focused. Now is the time to do that, because I guarantee you, when you get out there and you start looking at properties, man, that oh shiny squirrel syndrome, whoa, we all have it. But the more disciplined you are on the front end, the easier it is for you to figure out what's a deal and what's not. It's also easier for you to complete your scope of work, your project more efficiently, is what I'm trying to say. So find and establish your team now. There's a reason why it's in bold on the screen. Find and establish your team now before you even start the B process. You're still in the prepare to launch phase. All right, here we are. Let's buy something. So, assuming that you did your education, you know where you want to buy, you know what you want to buy, you know your multiple exit strategies, and you should have them, and then reverse engineer based on the rents and the refinance parameters. Why is this important? Because you need to get paid. Let's not kid ourselves. Like maybe the market tanks and you can't flip it. Well, okay, what are you going to do? Well, you might be able to use an asset-based lender, pull at least 70, 75, maybe 80% of your cash out refi and hang on to it for a while. You know, who knows? We are kind of, I think all would agree that we are in a little uncertain economic times. It's absolutely imperative that you have multiple exit strategies. Even if you think you're going to flip, you should definitely have an asset-based lender in your back pocket because you might not be able to. Who knows, 3-4 months down the road, what happens? North Korea starts shooting missiles, the economy tanks, you need to get your money out of a house. What are you going to do? So develop multiple exit strategies, nurture those relationships. When it comes time, if you have to pivot, for instance, if you're a flipper and you can't flip that house, you need an asset-based lender, a good mortgage broker in your back pocket to help you. So develop those relationships. That's certainly a trick that has worked out well for me. And in fact, I brought my mortgage broker with me here tonight. I'll introduce you in a little bit. Let's move on. So buy deals. What does your deal look like? You will have already really defined in this for yourself in that prepare to launch phase. I recommend go to the Bigger Pockets website, use their calculators or other trusted sources. That's great. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And who wants to, get their merit badge in Excel spreadsheet? Just use somebody else's. There are plenty of great trusted sources out there. And from whom? So I have purchased houses from all of these sources, from the MLS, from real estate agents. Make sure they work with investors. Make sure also that they also invest themselves. I have the same criteria for my real estate attorney, same criteria for my CPA. Why? Because this is not theory. Investing is a team sport, and I want everybody who's on my team, they have their eyes on the prize too. I don't care if my CPA only invests in commercial. The point is he or she has run numbers. They understand about cash flow. They understand about appreciation, if that's where you're going. They understand the details of underwriting. That's what I want my accountant to be paying attention to as well. Let's see, other investors, networking. One of the first houses, actually I took a picture tonight, you'll see it, is talking with other investors. Bank REO agents, and then of course driving for dollars. For newbies, this pretty much is the ratio breakdown. You're gonna look at maybe 100 properties, you're gonna come up maybe 30 maybes that could successfully be a deal for you. You're gonna make 10 offers, you're gonna walk away with 1 deal. So keep that in mind. You gotta have a lot of properties in the funnel, gives you a lot of practice, and then you'll get 1 good deal. And you'll market for lead generation based on how much you can, what volume you can successfully move through your pipeline. Money, paying for it. Certainly seller finance, if you can get it, is always a nice way to go. Private money lenders, especially folks who have money in their self-directed Roth IRA, 401k, the health savings account. I happen to use Camaplan, lots of folks I know do. They're located in Ambler, but Quest is another big third-party custodian. Equity Trust is another big third-party custodian. I use those sites because they have great articles, blogs, webinars, etc. So basically, I use them as part of my research library. When I talk to people and teach them how to be private money lenders, I will certainly use that information to help educate folks as well. So, but I happen to use Camaplan. I don't get anything, they're not going to send me a free cup of coffee or anything like that just because I send you their way. But I know a lot of real estate investors in this area use Camaplan, CAMAplan.com over in Ambler. Love them. Hard money lenders, self-funding, or a combination. So case in point, I don't know, maybe the first 3 or 4 houses I did recently, I self-funded. Then I did a combination, so I might do the acquisition and use private money or hard money for the rehab or reverse. So you can certainly do a combination that kind of spreads your funds along if you need to. So let's talk about the rehab. The rehab is going to be specific to your investment criteria. You're going to develop it in advance, which I already told you, and it's also going to allow for your specific project. You're going to tweak it as you need to. And their rehab levels, just like when you go to Home Depot, there's good, better, best. They have those signs talking about products on the shelf. You're going to adjust your rehab level to fit your market, your class that you're investing in. So is this a good, better, or best level rehab? There are products that you will either include or not include depending on the level of rehab that you're doing. And you use your exit strategy to guide you. High, mid, or lower rentals. Is this a family home with kids? So do you want a shower? Do you want a tub? Whatever. So these are the things that you, again, want to clarify for yourself before you start getting into the buy piece of it. Make sense? Yes? We're good so far? Okay. So, rehabbing, whether you're swinging a hammer and doing it yourself, whether you're managing your managers, really is the answer to questions you need to ask and answer for yourself prior to getting started. So again, recession-proofing your portfolio. We all need to be concerned about whether, we all think it's blue skies ahead, or I think most of us feel like there's some darkening clouds on the horizon. So ask yourself, who needs your product? That's part of your exit strategy conversation. What amenities do they require? And you want to do it better than the next guy. You want to over-deliver. This allows you to harden your portfolio. So I'm working in workforce housing, C asset classes. The families that live in my properties are police officers, teachers, service workers, landscape contractors. These are the folks, good solid, bread and butter kinds of working folks. These are the people who are living in my house. And I have some pictures at the end. But the level I'm rehabbing is actually higher than they expect. So I have a waiting list for rentals, and I have a couple houses that are on the market, and they basically flew off the shelf. So the point is, my advice would be figure out where you are and do it a little bit, add a little bit more, do it a little bit better. And I think it's next one. Yeah. Oh, but Patricia, what are you talking about? I'm not a designer. I don't know the stuff. And you think you're going to go to Home Depot and just look at the vignettes and just buy crap off the shelves? Don't do that. Be smart about it. Go to Pinterest. If you're not a designer, that's okay. Copy somebody else. Go to Pinterest. They have project-specific design boards. You can type in small bathroom. You can type in shingle roof. You can type in whatever, and you will get instantly hundreds and hundreds of photos. And based on themes, I actually have probably about 6,000 photos that I use for inspiration. And I am good at design. But I got to tell you, looking how people do other colors, how they put together the tile choices, the color choices, etc., makes my rehabs stand out. Also, go to local open houses. Go to stuff out on the main line, wealthy neighborhoods. They're having an open house. It's a $1.2 million house. Oh yeah, go there. Go see what they're doing. Because they might be able to pull out little details from the really pricier houses that you could use in your rehab if you're, C asset classes. Case in point, I use glass subway tiles, which are pretty expensive, in a backsplash in my kitchen. They look like $1 million. I do it because it's an elegant solution. It's gorgeous. It looks rich, and I make a huge impact in a very small space. And the difference between using something off the shelf at Home Depot versus these glass subway tiles for a backsplash, maybe it's a $200 difference, but it looks like $1 million. And I guarantee you, people who come to look at my house are not looking at houses that have glass subway tiles in the backsplash at the price point they're looking at. So that's one of those ways you start to distinguish yourself. Go to Zillow. I look at pictures on Zillow all the time. High-end stuff, lower-end stuff. I want to see what other people are doing as well. Pay attention everywhere. I pull ideas from restaurant design, offices, hospitals, cafes. I take pictures. I have the most esoteric collection of pictures, and sometimes it just might be a color combination that I like, and kind of randomly. There was a cafe in a hospital down in Delaware. I was visiting a friend. And I love the color combination, and it's perfect. I took a picture of it. So be thinking about this all the time. Let me move it along here. So rehab, first things first, protect the castle. When I go in, it's a very systematic way in which I employ my scope of work. Start with the roof and the foundation. They happen basically simultaneously. I go through and do the systems. I upgrade all electrical to 200 amp service. I'm typically putting in LED wafer lights on dimmer switches. I'm very particular about my lighting. You can use crappy paint in a very mediocre looking house, and if you put in a wafer light that's LED, you don't have to change those bulbs ever, and if it's a specific wavelength of light between 2700 and 3000 K, it will look like sunlight and makes everybody look fantastic. And that's one of those particular things I love about lighting. I upgrade plumbing when I need to. HVAC, if I can put in central air, I will. It's Philly, for God's sakes. It's hot as hell here in August. But frankly, you know, if I'm already tearing up the ceilings because it's old and plaster, oh yeah, I'm going to put in central air if I can. But if I'm not cutting up the ceiling, I'm not going to bother. So it really ends up being sort of, again, exit strategy specific. Here's the thing I do. If I'm not going to put in central air, I will look, my electrician, he and I picked this out, we figure out which window the giant box fan or giant air conditioner, the window air conditioner is going to go in, and we make sure that is a 220 outlet. So again, thinking ahead, what's your end user going to need? One particular windows, you know, oh yeah, they're going to put the air conditioner right there. We're going to wire it appropriately. All right, it's the same recipe, folks. Always, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are. Phoenix, Pacific Northwest, Maine, Midwest, kitchen, bath, curb appeal, sizzle items. I'm not going to have to explain kitchen and bath. You guys can look on Pinterest and online and take a look at those. Curb appeal differs based a little bit on where you are. That gets to be sort of, you know, specific. For instance, areas that don't have harsh winters might have different landscape plantings, etc. The thing I really want to focus on is sizzle items. What are sizzle items? These are ways that you set your properties apart from others. Sizzle items will vary depending on the neighborhood your project is in. So if I'm in an like B or A asset class, and these are big money, high ticket areas. For instance, a good friend of mine, she and her family, they flip $1 million houses out on the main line. And she and I are always talking about little tricks that we put in our houses. So their sizzle items, you know, they've got a lot of really high-end stuff, which is fabulous. Things I put in my properties, workforce housing, stuff like a simply safe alarm system. I'll put in a ring doorbell so that the renters or the buyers, they can look on their phone and see who is at the front door. I will put in radiant floor heating, especially in the bathrooms. If I'm gutting the bathroom anyway, and I am, you know, putting in radiant floor heating under tile, I do the electrical, that maybe cost me $200, $250. You know, if you're talking about the typical Philly 6x8, you know, you're just talking a little square footage. I'm going to put tile down there anyway. Radiant floor heating, I guarantee you, the folks in workforce housing, they've never seen radiant floor heating before. And if you haven't lived with radiant floor heating, let me tell you, that's how civilized people live. Good Lord, I love that stuff. So consider sizzle items. In some areas, fireplaces are considered a sizzle item, or wall-to-wall carpet, or back door or backyard areas, etc. Some people don't. All my rehabs have brand new appliances. Everything matches. Everything sparkles, and that's one of the ways in which I distinguish myself from other folks. But consider what are sizzle items that are cost-effective for your projects. I put radiant floor heating in virtually every rehab that I do. Again, that's one of the sizzle items associated with my brand, if you will. And I developed that back when I was formulating the scope of work before I even launched my own business. Make sense? So I'm doing what I'm preaching. Let's talk about the kitchen real quick. Cabinetry, great hardware. Obviously, I use countertops. I use quartz. I don't use granite. I couldn't be bothered with granite. I don't want to. Granite has its own texture, visual texture to it, and I don't want. It's like wearing, you know, stripes with stripes. If I'm going to put granite down, it means everything else has to be sort of subdued, and I couldn't be bothered. I put down a kind of quartz tile or a kind of quartz countertop called Sparkling White. It's white, it's got little bits of sparkle in it, it's not overwhelming, and yet it looks fantastic, and I can get pop in other places. So quartz is, I'm not a huge fan of it, so I don't use it. Backsplash, a place to show off expensive tile, I mentioned that before. Appliances, I use all electric if possible, and the reason why is it's just, I find it's just easier to work with rather than having, it's basically about holding costs. Having to kind of dance with Pico and then also having to dance, say, with PGW or something if you're down in Philly, that's a pain in the ass to me. I'm trying to decrease hassle factors, so I just make all appliances electric if I can make it happen. I usually am always pulling out walls and making spaces larger. Everybody likes open concept floor plans. We've all seen that. And I put a giant workspace or island in as well. And again, I wouldn't necessarily have known to do that, but I look at other people's designs all the time. Finishes. All the same. Either you're all shiny nickel, or you're all brash, or you're all or brushed, or you're all bronze. So whatever it is you choose, you don't want to be mixing and mashing. You got brushed at the sink, but your drawer pulls are shiny nickel. All seamless, all uniform. It speaks to kind of uniformity, a completeness, and a professional level that makes your stuff stand out and doesn't look like you just saw something when you walked down Home Depot and it was on sale and so you popped it in. So again, a kind of a uniformity of look. Bath, have that conversation with yourself, shower versus tub. If they're family homes, you kind of always need a tub. Consider its orientation. There's a series of houses I bought two on the same street. They're the same floor plan. I actually shifted the tub around so I could put a larger tub in. It worked out great. I use tile. I don't use tub surrounds because I think, again, kind of a sizzle item, kind of takes it to the next level. It's a uniform, cohesive look. The installations of stuff like the toilet paper holder, towel bars, they're at conventional heights. If you don't know what that is, you can buy a book on architectural measurements that will tell you what the range is between the height of the base cabs and the upper cabs. There's always a range. Where are towel bars typically, how high are they, etc. There's a convention to measurements. It's a resource book, and you can get it online. And I use that kind of thing all the time. Curb appeal, clean, neat. Lighting is always fantastic. Flowers and yardscaping, you want a good-looking mailbox. The front door should just sparkle, and it should be a warm and inviting front space. Sturdy railing. You're trying to sell a property, literally sell it to potential renters or sell it to buyers. You don't want to walk up and have a rickety handrail. So you want to make sure that's really nice and solid. Sizzle items. Neighborhood and asset class are specific. So a couple of ideas. Fireplace, hardwood floors, hot tubs, alarm systems, wall-to-wall carpeting, garage with storage system, lighting's on dimmer, radiant floor heating in bathrooms, central air, wired smart homes, the Ring doorbell, specialty landscaping. These are the kind of things I talked about. This is a classic quote I got from someone last year. I didn't even know I wanted that until I saw it in your house. Yes, that's the kind of response I want. So prepare for surprises. Your rehab budget, I guarantee you, especially newbies. I'll say something that is not popular, but here's the fact, newbies. Your first property, if you break even and don't lose money, you should be extremely happy. Here's why. You don't know what it is you don't know. So prepare for the worst. You may lose money, but the lesson is invaluable. You will either get paid a little, you will definitely get an education. So that's what I say, prepare for the worst. So what does that mean? Budget, people say, oh, an extra 10, oh, I go 20%. Allow for 4 to 6 additional weeks. I think consider a 0% credit card for a safety net if you need it. And also know all your holding costs, trash, water, sewer, electric, property taxes, permits, hard money lender percentages, insurance, specifically builder's risk versus a policy when you have tenants in, etc. So there are a lot of nuances. Do not skip those things. Closing costs. If you're going to be flipping, of course, you guys know this, you're going to pay closing costs twice, both when you buy it and then when you sell it. So pay attention. Buying, selling, if that's the case, also, you might have to consider a lease-up fee with a property manager. If you're not going to be managing a rental on your own, that could be a half to a full month's rent. So if you were squeaking by and really looking for that first month's rent, no, the first month is going to go to the property manager. So, rent, if you're renting it. Because again, it's the R, it's BRRRR, right? Market your ass off. And you should be doing that before it's done. But I never show my properties until they're 100% done. So, a couple of things. So, take professional photographs. I have that done on my rentals. The company I use is called homejab.com. I don't know, last year maybe a half a dozen times I use HomeJab. You can buy different levels of packages. Professional photographer will come out and take professional photos. Why? Well, I use these for my own marketing, but I also use them for my own credibility portfolio. I'm going to show private money lenders. I'm going to show other investors, colleagues. I'm going to show you all the kind of work that I do. And I do that because I am building a professional resume portfolio. You should too. I think I don't even spend $100 on those photos, and I have photos of every single property that I've done. That speaks to, so when I'm going to a private money lender, they're interested in they have $500,000 to lend, I can pull out my portfolio and say, here's the work that I do. It distinguishes me from other folks because the quality of what I do is great, but also the fact that I even have those photos and they're just not taken with a happy, snappy iPhone. They're professionally done. So keep that in mind. It's a great marketing expense. You'll be happy to spend your money on that. So again, you do it for your own portfolio. Your properties will rent faster, they will sell faster, and for more money. I guarantee that. And it helps you to establish your rent levels in advance. You will have done this prior to buying it. You're going to go to rentometer.com. You're going to use realtor.com. You're going to look at Zillow, Trulia, HotPads. A project manager that you intend to work with will also assist you. You will know what the rental rate is for the property that you will be finished with before you buy it. This is the whole point of you make your money when you buy. You've got to reverse engineer everything so you know how it works. Self-manage? Oh, okay. So if you want to self-manage, you need to be very facile with leases. You're going to have to know policies, insurance, renters policies, mess around with snow removal, lawn care. You're going to have to babysit contractors, etc. That might work for you. You might like to do that. I hate to do that. That's fine. And there's kind of neither here nor there. It's your personal preference, how you decide to run your business. If you are not going to self-manage, then of course you want to build in your property management monthly fee. You're going to manage the property manager, and if your deal does not, in my book, if your deal doesn't allow for principal, interest, tax, insurance, property management fee, and cash flow, it's not a deal. It's not a deal. So for those of you who are hell-bent on managing your own properties, God love you. But it's going to get to a point where you don't. So I'm telling you, even those of you who think you're going to manage your own properties, you get to about 12 or 15 properties and you're managing them yourselves, that gets to be a full-time job. You get to 20 properties, you are really jumping through hoops all the time. And it's at that point you might decide, gee, I really need to bring on a property manager to offload some of this work so I continue to move my portfolio forward. If you have not allowed for a property manager fee in your initial calculations, you might not be able to afford a property manager. So this is what I'm telling you. Even if you plan on doing the property management yourself, make sure you run the numbers that includes it, because eventually you're going to need that there. Refinancing. So a couple ways to do this. Private money lenders could conceivably cash you out. I'm getting a lot of feedback. So private money lenders will cash you out anywhere between 60 to 80% of LTV, that's loan to value. And it kind of depends on the market, what's happening in the market. When the market's feeling really exuberant, you could very well refinance out at an 80, 85% level. There are plenty of people who did that in 2005, 6, and 7. But if there is some expectation of retraction in the economy, that refinance LTV percent is probably going to come down a little bit. But again, private money lenders love them, use them all the time. I also use asset-based lenders, which are designed just for investors. So typically, you're going to want a FICO score that's reasonable, 650 and above, I'll ballpark it. You don't need a W-2 job because, again, asset-based lenders work specifically with real estate investors. This is not Wells Fargo. This is not Bank of America. This is an asset-based lender. They are lending. They will cash out, refinance your property based on the asset, based on the fact that you created a property that's now worth $150,000 and the tenant is paying $1,500 a month rent, easily satisfies the 1% rule, and they will loan you 70, 75%, 30-year fixed mortgage on $150,000. I happen to know that's $105,000. So if your purchase and your rehab is $105,000 or less, congratulations. You're going to cash yourself out. You have no more money in the deal. The tenant's paying the rent, and you're laughing all the way to the bank. Yes? All right. Can I get an amen? That's right. So I use a money broker, and I'll introduce them. Steve, wave your hands around. Come on, Steve. Don't be shy. Yeah. Steve Goldman, raise your hand. So that's my money broker. So Steve, I told him, bring a bunch of business cards. I also do business with Mr. Don Brown. Don, wave your hands around. Don is one of my lenders, one of my private money lenders. Steve does my asset-based lending. And I use the two of them and highly recommend them both. So you've got money in this room, newbies, specifically talking to you, or more experienced investors if you're looking to develop other streams of income or other streams of financing. Talk to these guys. I use a money broker. Why? Because I am not the right tool for the job to go down and chase finance. I don't want to do that. That's Steve's job. I call him up, I give him the details, give him what he wants. That's his job. My job is to do deals, is to see the opportunity, work through the scope of work. My job is to do deals. It's not to go on websites figuring out what American Heritage Credit Union is offering. That's not my job. That's Steve's job. I'm really okay with that. It decreases the hassle factor, keeps me in my lane, and my company makes money when I am in my zone. And understanding I am the right tool for that. I'm not the right tool to chase down financing. So I hand that over to Steve. It allows me to archive all my financial data, and especially for recurrent deals. In my case, Steve happens to hang on to a lot of my information, and so he will use that over and over and over again as I refinance out. He's a trusted team member. I will call him with just ideas, pick his brain. We've talked about much larger deals. We've talked about the single family house over here in Norristown, and the depth and breadth of his experience is very helpful. The other, not to feel like I'm harping on Steve, the other person I would recommend is Ridge Lending Group. They happen to be in Portland, Oregon, and Chaley Ridge is the CEO, and she's been doing that for almost 20 years. And between the two of them, you will get all the information you need. Steve, I even have your email and your phone number up here, but he'll be able to harass you, I'm sure. Refinancing. Did you make a profit? Yes. Great. What did you learn? Write it down. Lessons learned. Really important to spend time and critically think about the arc of your project, the assumptions you made on the front end, what did not pan out, and how you can learn from them to avoid them. Or if it's a great lesson learned, great. How can I make sure that happens again? Spend time in critical self-analysis of the project and yourself. This is going to be crucial, because if you're just cranking through projects and you're not spending the time thinking about what went right, what went wrong, you're just winging it. And you don't want to wing it. This is not a hobby. This is your business. What would you change? Write it down. Apply your lessons. Do it better next time. Did you not make a profit? Did you learn a lot? I'm sure you did. Write it down. What went wrong? What went right? You either get paid or you get an education, hopefully both. Yes? Can I get an amen? There we go. All right, so repeat. Review your strategy. What was your original plan? Was it the correct one? For you, what went right, what went wrong, how to avoid similar problems, and how did you fix the challenges. I got to tell you, when you are up against it and you have to solve a problem this week that you totally weren't expecting, that is some of my most brilliant problem solving happens when something pops up that I didn't expect. But it's really important to hang on to that information for yourself as you move forward, or else you're sort of doomed to repeat it. And if it went bad, how bad was it? So bad, I have in quotes. Why? Because I use an after-action analysis. And those of you who are in the Army will understand the phrase after-action report. It's the idea that once an exercise is done, you go back and look at what were the assumptions that you had on the front end, what worked, what doesn't. So what I use is the budget actual deviation. That's bad, is how I use it. It's how over or under were you with your budget. Were those deviations surprises? Were they larger or smaller than you expected? Check your work. Look at the contractor's estimates versus the actual paid versus the hassle factor versus ease of business. Case in point, I love my electrician. My electrician and I are having breakfast tomorrow. And I will use that guy even though I know he charges me more than other typical electricians. And I give his name out freely. And I say, look, you're going to pay more for this guy. But this guy adds such value to my team. There is a complete and ease of business like you would not even believe. I love working with my electrician. He's smart. He's experienced. We work together. He knows I'm a lighting nerd. How many people can say they're a lighting nerd? I mean, he and I love this stuff. I shoot him like random pictures of photos if I'm in a store, and he loves that I send him pictures of lighting fixtures. But the point is, I use him all the time. I don't care that I have to pay more for him because the ease of use of working with him, he makes it easy for me to do business with him. That's what I love. And he always adds value. So consider that when you're thinking about contractors that they might not have been the cheapest bid, but they were easy to work with. Their administrative invoicing worked seamlessly. You didn't have any problem getting information from them. You needed a copy of some random bill that they paid that you're billing for. They're on top of it. That's a contractor. If they got strong business admin experience and skills behind them, it goes a long way for me. Materials and resources. These are folks, local folks. Avalon Tile, Lumber Liquidators, Tag Lumber, which I see now is misspelled. I love Tag Lumber. Kiefer's Appliances. I cannot like those guys more than I do. Dow Tile. Love Dow Tile. These are folks, I use these. And there are times when I'll use specialty items that I can find online. But again, I'm looking at Pinterest, I'm looking at Line, I'm looking at House. I want to see what other people are using, and I'll track down where I think a little specialty item would look great. It's an A asset class item that I'm using in a C class property that nobody else is using, and it just looked fantastic. All right, here's the before and after pictures. Have I lost you? We're good. So this is a property in Norristown. And I call it the Hoarder House Horror. I bought this from another investor, and the short story was that he bought it at a tax sale. They got into it. Another project came back around and fell into his lap that he really wanted to do, and so he was just kind of putting it out in the world that he wanted to get out from underneath us. Great. I had a conversation, struck a deal, and it worked out to be fine. And actually, I'll show you pictures of this house. So this is not when I owned it. This is when he first bought it. One of these guys is his teenage son, and and then some guy they found, and then two of them are friends. It was awful. Here we go. Yeah. On the left is the bathroom, and then in the middle is a middle bedroom, piled up to the ceiling with crap. That's also another back bedroom on the right-hand side. Hoarder house. That's the kitchen on the left. Don't you think that the fly traps hanging from the ceiling give that special je ne sais quoi, right? And again, this is the same bathroom filled with crap. This is what it looks like today. Hoarder house hero. So we did everything. Ultimately, they took out 7 30-yard boxes of crap. That's my all-time record. Before it had only been 4 30-yard boxes. 210 cubic yards of crap. Unbelievable. So we are the one on the right. Obviously, new door, a couple of new windows, not a lot. Repainted, redid the exterior. This is what it looks like. I took out 2 walls, big open space. They're among my contractors, we call them nooner walls. Not nooner like you know, an afternoon delight kind of way, but nooner in the sense that you close at 10 a.m., the walls are out by noon. So we'll walk through, it's like, oh, that's a nooner wall, that's a nooner wall. It's the non-load bearing stuff, you know you're gonna open up the space, and so we did. So you'll get a feel for this. This is the living room. That's it from the other direction. This is it. So again, this was 3 rooms initially. I opened them all up. Here's the kitchen that you saw with the fly traps was actually located back here and in the, what is now the laundry room. And I pulled the kitchen out, and again, this is that giant work island we talked about. You might be able to see, there we go. So that's a 4x5 square work island, huge. And you got plenty of room to move around, great storage underneath as well. This is my bathroom. It has radiant floor heating. I like to put a curved shower rod because I think it gives more room when you're taking a shower. Okay, so let's talk. The original plan was that I'm going to purchase it for $30K. The rehab cost was going to be about $40. Holding cost was going to be about $4,300, all in at about $74,000. The rental, estimated rental amount was going to be about $1,200 a month, and I expected the ARV to be about $125,000. That worked for me. That was going to be a deal. The scope of work was well within my wheelhouse. I was very comfortable with the range of work that was going to happen. So here's the real deal. Actual purchase price was $30K. Rehab cost was $65, so about $25 more than I expected. And it was because we had to rewire and replumb, which were things that nobody knew in advance. Closing and holding costs then was more, all in at about $102,000. Actual rent was $1,500 a month, which was nice. So in the time period when I first bought it to the time period when I was ready for final disposition, rent in that area had gone up. Nice bonus for me. It also helped because it reappraised at $150,000. So I refinanced 75% loan to value on $105K, $112,500 for a 30-year mortgage. My profits was a little under $10,000, not as much as I wanted, but I still made money on it, and it's still cash flowing. My PITI is $960. In this case, there are no property management fees, and my monthly cash flows by $540. I have no more money in the deal. I bought it, rehabbed it, pulled my money out, made a little profit that went in my pocket. Now remember, when it's proceeds of a loan, it's not income, right? So if you're coming in under that $105,000, anything that's not the purchase price or the rehab price, the difference between the two goes in your pocket. In my case, it does. I mean, you make other decisions for your own business. So that's part of the profit, goes in my pocket. I don't pay income tax on that because it's proceeds of a loan. It's a new mortgage loan that pays me. So that's one of the ways I make money. So that's now money, today money. And then I also get about $540 in cash flow every month. So a change in exit strategy. So I decided that I was going to do, I wanted to move and do some lease options. So this is a house that in fact, I didn't end up doing a lease option. It's actually was on the market, and it's going to close next month. But here's another one, also in Norristown. What you might appreciate is there's the seam in the floor. That was actually a load-bearing wall, which we took out. We put it in a giant-ass metal beam on the top, and then we opened up that back area with beautiful French doors and put in another window. The window on the left was actually the original back door. And so this opens up this gorgeous kitchen, and it opens up to this backyard area that's just really lovely. Also, harkening back to why I'm a lighting fixture nerd, I love this lighting fixture in the ceiling. I just have to say that. It sparkles. It's lovely. People walk in, I get the classic, ooh, ah. I love to hear that. All right, so here's that kitchen again. All new appliances, lots of counter space, lots of area for folks to sit, enjoy a glass of wine, help out with dinner prep, whatever. Living room. I decided to, this is a 2-bedroom house, so actually I took out the tub, which was only like 4 feet anyway. I took out the tub because I thought this is either going to be a single person or it's going to be a very young couple, newly married, probably not going to have kids, etc. So I decided to pull out the tub and I put in this glass shower instead. There we have it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Give it up for Patricia. Thank you, Patricia. So at this point, we have some time open. We want to open it up for questions. I'm sure after that presentation, your wheels must be turning on some questions out there. So what I'm going to do is, if you have a question, stand up. I'm going to try to listen to your question. I'll repeat it to Patricia and the rest of the room.
We got one in the
up.
front. We'll start here.
Okay.
So.
Sam?
Sure.
So the question is about the proceeds when you're taking the money out.
Absolutely. So let's make the math easy. So my ARV was $150,000. So that's the value I was able to bring. And I know that with an ARV of $150,000, I can use an asset-based lender to do a cash-out refi, and I'm going to put back in place a 30-year fixed mortgage for the long haul. 70% of that ARV is 105. Okay. So let's go back to the original plan. I bought it for 30K. Let's say I put 50K into it, so I'm all in for 80K, right? The project's done, 80K. The difference between 80 and 105, which is what I can pull out, 70% LTV, and that's pretty conservative. You know, this is like 2005 when people are taking 95% out. Pulling out 70% LTV is a very reasonable amount to pull out. The difference between what I put into it and what I'm going to take out, the 105 is the loan, that money is potentially profit in my pocket. And because it is a loan, it's proceeds of a loan, it's not income. So I don't get taxed on that. You got it? Cool. All right, what else?
Other questions back there? Don't be shy. You must have answered all their questions. No other questions? Here we go. So the question was about how in the beginning of your prep, you talked about adding in that into your deal or no deal, but they didn't see it at the end.
So, and let me answer that. Great catch. So typically, you know, a property manager is going to cost you 10% of your rent. So at a $1,500 a month rent, that's going to charge me $150. I was working with a property manager who actually owed me money from a whole other deal. And so what we decided is that they would manage the property for X number of months for free, which is fine. So that's why I say there's no property management fee. It's not that there's not a property manager, it's just that she's not charging me. So it's a temporary situation, and ultimately I'll have to pay a property management fee, which would be $150 out of that $540. So, but good question.
Alexa.
Why Norristown? Why does this work well in Norristown? What do you like about the area?
Sure, great question. So, which kind of speaks to something sort of near and dear to my heart. So the question was, why Norristown? Why this area? I live in Philadelphia. I have done work in Philadelphia. It's kind of a shit show down there. Like, people are overpaying for stuff. Neighbors are ripping off your copper. What should be a 90-day project ends up being a 6-month project because you can't get an inspector in on time to do what you need to do. I just don't, I couldn't be bothered. It's too much hassle for me. And again, hassle factor, right? And I'm not flipping houses. This is a buy, fix, and hold. So I'm looking for markets that have great value. I'm looking at places where I can get in for 30 or 50, put in 30 or 50, so I'm all in for 80, 90K, and I can push it to 150K ARV. I know I'm going to pull out 105 on the back end. So those numbers are really, really reasonable. Here's another trick, though. I also buy in a very tight neighborhood, so I end up comping myself. I'm going to say that again, because that's really key. So for those of you who are new, the value of that house, of the ARV on the back end, is going to be set up in large part by the sale of other houses. If I can show other houses that I have also rehabbed and have reappraised at 150K, I have now set my own bar. I am comping myself. So remember, on the front end of the original plan was that my ARV was going to be 125. Well, it turned out, when it was all said and done, they thought, oh God, yes, this is a 150K house. Great work, fabulous. Now that I have that one, then I did all of them exactly the same way in that same tight little neighborhood, and now I'm comping myself. So I got a chance to set my own bar and be held to it. And I am the tide that is raising all the boats in my neighborhood.
Love that strategy.
Yes, ma'am. So I'll tell you, I go. So I'm going to. So she was asking, do I work in a very specific area of Norristown? And my answer is yes. And I was prepared to work in a couple of different areas. As it turned out, a couple of projects popped up in the same neighborhood, and it's near the municipal building, the Norristown Borough building. So I have three properties. One's closing next month, but I have 3 properties adjacent to the Borough building, and then one a couple blocks over, and one maybe a half a mile away, and another around the corner. So mine end up clustering around the Borough building. I don't come towards the river. These are, classic, solid, not a lot of renters, mostly long-term homeowners that have a lot of deferred maintenance. So I'm able to go in and much like multifamily, I can add a lot of value. I can really force the appreciation. So does that answer your question? Okay. Thank you. You mean the dining room lighting? So she's asking about the lighting, or? So, yeah, so these are, she's asking about the lighting in the property because I'm a nerd about it. They're wafer lights. They look exactly like those can lights that we used to have to cut holes in. They're not, they're wafers. They're basically 3 or 4 inch in diameter. They're like, they're about the thickness of a pancake. And if you ask your electrician for wafer lights with an LED lighting value between 2,700 and 3,000 K, you will hit the money with that. They look like $1 million. They look like the old halogen lights that mimic sunlight. So it's a beautiful, beautiful color light. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Sir.
So, any tips around how you screen tenants and what you look for?
Yeah. And let me say this.
Repeat.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So he was asking any tips about screening tenants. I will tell you, I think that there are a lot of great ideas online. There are fantastic folks that are great landlords in your local RIA groups. Since I'm working in C asset class areas, I'm typically getting folks who have some bruised credit. I will tell you that I run everybody through sort of the usual FICO score kind of credit thing. I don't hang my hat on that though, because someone could have been in a car accident 3 years ago and they're still sort of coming out from underneath that. Or, I got a woman whose credit score was in like the 500s. Why? I want to know the story. Why did that happen? She declared bankruptcy because her husband was killed in Afghanistan. I don't have a problem. Her bills are up to date. Everything's up to date now. So I want to know what's the story, why you have bruised credit, have you fixed that, is it plausible, can I verify it, etc. Here's the other thing, I'm really particular. I run everybody through credit check, criminal background check, and I also check to make sure nobody who's going to live in the property is on the sex offender registry. I'm renting family homes in family neighborhoods. So I cross T's and dot I's, and as a parent, feel very strongly about that. Does that help? Okay. Also, another trick. When they fill out the application and you want to, hey, you're great, I've picked you kind of thing, go to their house on a weekend and literally ring their doorbell. If you don't like the way the inside of the house looks, because that's how they keep it, that's a trick. Also, look at their car and see how their car looks. And if their car's junky, your house is going to be too. There was another one over here. Question?
I did.
All right. Did I answer it? Oh.
Are you your own contractor in these jobs? The 40K rehab, there's no lights here, or good price for you. The whole house cost you 40.
Right.
65, 70 was more, my picture.
Sure.
Are you subcontracting your own projects?
I'm not self-contracting. I have a great contracting team. They work on my own house. And like I said, we didn't anticipate having to rewire the entire house. That was one of the big ticket surprises. And there was some stuff with the plumbing that ended up also being a big ticket. The stuff that I had budgeted for in the 40K, we actually did that. It was those two surprises that bumped we went from 40 to 65K, that bumped us. But the things that I had planned to do, I did do. And there was so much fat on that deal that, I still made money on the back end, just not as much as I anticipated. But I got everything done. I didn't lose money, made a little bit anyway. But to answer your question, I used to do my own GC work. Again, hassle factor. I stay in my lane. I give my contractors detailed scope of work. And now that we have done, a lot of work together, we talk about, remember that house when we did the such and such? Yeah, let's do that again. So once you get a good contracting team together and you have that shared experience and vocabulary, it's real easy. It's like, where did we get those tiles on blah, blah, blah? That kind of thing. And I know for a fact, my contractor told me, he goes, yeah, do you remember actually that particular house? He said, do you remember the house we did on da-da-da-da? Yeah. And he took pictures of it. He got 2 other jobs just based on that fabulous glass subway tile I put on the backsplash. So he's taking pictures and he's using my project to get himself other work. I have no problem with that. Knock yourself out. I know I'm his first customer priority. Yeah. Sir?
You said you use camera.
Yes.
What percentage of your properties do you have in your area?
So he's asking about Camaplan, which is a third-party custodian that manages your self-directed 401k, IRA, health savings account, etc. I own no properties in my IRA or my 401k. I private money lend out of those accounts. Here's the deal. My kids, my wife, myself form one LLC, and we private money lend to other investors and make great returns, and it's Rothenized, and so nobody's going to be paying taxes on that. Look at it.
Does your IRA own other entities? So in other words, is the private money loan coming from this self-directed IRA like that, or do you have an entity set up for that private money?
No, it's kind of a one-off. So like maybe the lender is not using all the money I have available. So one of the accounts we'll use, in which case it's just a kind of one-to-one. If we have to combine all the accounts, because that's what my borrower, rather, I misspoke myself, not lender, borrow. If my borrower needs all the money I have available at some particular time, I'll form a one-off LLC to do that. But that LLC then, for instance, I have an LLC that has all 4 accounts, mine, my wife's, and the 2 kids. And I use that when I need to, when all 4 accounts are being used as a money lender.
So you have an LLC.
Mm-hmm.
In lieu of you self-directed IRA.
Yes, I have an LLC, yeah, and so that just allows all 4 accounts, because they have varying amounts in them, to invest together as an entity. But it's the pass-through is still the same. It's a hands-off. I'm not cashing any checks. The profits go directly back to Camaplan for benefit of me and the whole crew.
You took $10,000 out of this property, you didn't sell it, so it wasn't really a profit. You just took the money out.
It was a profit. Yeah, no, it was a profit because I paid myself back the acquisition costs, I paid myself the rehab costs, and $10K. I created that value. That went in my pocket. I went on vacation with it.
How often do you leave money in a property? It might be okay to leave $5 or $10 grand in. You just created a $20,000.
Sure. Every single project I'm leaving money in. How much? I'm leaving 30% in. Because remember, my LTV is only...
Any money out of your pocket. This. I mean, your ARV's a little bit less, you spend a little more money than you think you did.
Sure. And so he's asking, let me get this right. So you're asking, well...
Did you ever do a cash out refi and have to leave some of your own money in?
Oh, like literally the hard money that, or not hard money, but, so he's asking, did I ever do a project in which I effectively lost my money and was not able to pull out all my rehab, all my acquisition money? Not recently. I know it's happened, but not recently. That particular project made 10 grand, that's fine. And I created value. So 30% of the value still remains in the house. But it wasn't money that ever came out. I created that value. And because my back end refinance is for 70% LTV, I'm not doing 85, I'm not doing 90%. So I leave 30% equity in there. But I think I've answered your question, yes?
You do 70%, right?
Yeah.
You're taking the 70% out, those are, I'm just saying, those are every time, even if you took 80% out, or you left a few bucks, you had to leave a few bucks.
Sure.
$2,000 or $5,000 in, and it's $150,000.
And at this point, I typically don't, and I don't have to, because I'm this is gonna sound kind of arrogant. I know what I'm doing, and this is a full-time business, so this is not a hobby for me. I'm okay with leaving 30% in, and that also allows me to get really easy refinancing because my entire portfolio looks solid and is conservatively underwritten.
I guess it would apply when you're looking at a property you can't look at. You're on the outside, you really could have been on the inside. You ever buy properties unseen?
Yep.
Unseen, and you really must have a big spread there.
Yep, in fact I did. So I've got two of them. One, I'm going to be starting in a big gut project that I'm going to start. I paid $6,000 for it. It'll be worth $150K, $155K on the back end as well. There's another house that I bought for $14,000. I put a $75,000 hard money loan on it, and it'll go on the market at the end of this month for $183,000. So, yeah, unseen. They were at tax sales. They were tax sales. And here's the deal. You know, I don't have a problem buying a tax sale. It's not something I recommend to newbies. Like those of you who are flippers, you know, you've got into stuff and it can be damn scary. You know, it's the kind of thing we go in. I'm kind of a nerd like this. My contractor and I, once I get the deed, I say, come on, we're going to go drill the door open. I try to do the best I can. I look in windows. My roofer's got a drone. We look at the roof. I talk to neighbors. What happened here? I try to do a lot of due diligence before I go to the tax sale. But the bottom line is you know, it's a surprise, which I've done, and I don't have a problem doing it. Other questions?
Any questions back here? Well, I think that's it. So why don't we give Dr. Patricia Redhawk a nice round of applause. We really appreciate it, Patricia. Thank you.